A beautiful morning to you there. It's good to have you join us on Global Morning. What a beautiful way to start the weekend. Very cozy, I tell you, here in the Federal Capital Territory. You know, it's the rainy season, and I was actually thinking the rain was going to deter me from coming to work. But I was just like, please, I know you're dragging me to stay back in bed, but I need to come and see everyone. You know, I'm saying see you because, of course, I can see from this end and you can see me on your screen. It's good to have you join us today. It's going to be an amazing ride on the breakfast program, and we want to sit back and enjoy the ride with us. I am Aniti Patrick, and of course, as always on the program, I won't be doing this alone. I have my co-anchor with me in the studio in person of Mukhtar Kasim. Hello, Mukhtar.
Good morning, Aniti. You've said it already. It's a beautiful day and the weather is really cozy. Yeah. Makes you want to stay in your bed. But then when duty calls, you've got to answer. And we're here for you to make sure you have a great time at the weekend, and how it always goes, you already know, and it's not going to be any different today. Okay,
well, like that's what I've said, it's not going to be different today. We have a whole lot lined up for you, and of course there's been a lot happening in the course of the week in terms of news, in terms of activities, a whole lot of issues, but it's time to relax. It's the weekend, but of course while you're relaxing, we'll bring you up to date with all the latest stories happening across the globe, starting off with our rundown for today, because of course we have a newspaper review segment, so we'll bring you stories making the headway on the front page cover, and of course we have taste and texture.
Of course, we'll bring to you breakfast the way you like it, and of course taste and texture is one of my favorite parts of the program.
Of course, the foodie parts.
Of course, after taste and texture, when we're giving you breakfast and you're fully relaxed, we'll bring you discussions, very topical and important discussion as it concerns our country and how to move this great nation forward.
Okay, well, we'll do all of this conversation. Want to stay with us because it's one conversation you cannot afford to miss. Of course, the trust is our own time on the breakfast program. We bring you very engaging discussion segments that you need to pick a lesson and take that to run the rest of your life, because when you're informed, of course, you know the best choices to make. Well, we commit to you quickly with the fourth lineup for what we have today, which is the newspaper review segment, and that is up next. Please stay with us. It's good to have you join us back. Of course, like we said, it's the time to tell you what's happening across the world, starting from Nigeria here. We have a lot of papers lined up for you, and of course, we have the likes of The Punch, we have The Guardian, we have The Nation newspaper, we have also the Independent newspaper, as well as others. We'll start basically with what's happening fully with The Punch newspaper. What is The Punch newspaper saying to us this morning? A whole lot of stories just littered in the front page cover of this Saturday Punch newspaper. But let's start with the lead story that starts up this page. It says, legal advice deepens Umahi's aid death mystery. And we have the writer that says, Nurse Habila healthy before tragedy, says DPP, suspects invited. And we also have another one that says, family petitions IG, demands body for immediate burial. And all of the story is in page 2 of the Saturday Punch.
And of course, other stories making the round. You go below that story, you see a story that says, how syndicates lure elderly citizens into crime. Not a pleasant one, but details you find on page 3 of the Punch, Saturday Punch newspaper.
And of course, let's look above that story, that started the lead story there. You're wondering what that is saying. It says why we can't use condoms with our wives, Nigerian men. This is on the human side angle of it, where Nigerian men are speaking on that. I'm sure when you pick up a copy, you'll find out what Nigerian men are saying. But let's go beside that. There's a picture of Frank Edogo, which we know, very popular figure there, where he's the story that says Frank Edogo's alleged lover demands 100 million naira from estranged wife. Well, that story has been so much on social
it's been making the rounds for a long time.
Yes.
And this is another dimension to that story. But going back below, because more stories below, it says Oyo abduction, 3 face life jail as ex-general backs probe call. Details you find on page 7. Of course, the Oyo abduction is something that has been going on. We are trying to see justice now for the victims, and this is the right step in the right direction.
And just beside that story, on the left-hand side, still talking about issue around security and a whole lot, we waited for ransom call, but received my father's corpse. That's a daughter speaking on the tragedy they had to face. That story is on page 4. So that's why most times when we have kidnapped victims, all we pray for is safe return. Because sometimes the ransom is paid, but yet
the victims are killed, and that's what makes it sad. If you say you're collecting ransom, why not collect the ransom? Why do you have to kill the victim? It's not a good one, and we know our security agencies are going to be hot on the heels of those people. But away from that story, to the right hand corner, it says Emefiele finally forfeits mansion, $2 million to FG, and that details you find on page 8 of the Saturday Punch newspaper. And
just at the bottom plate there, we have this other story that wraps up this particular newspaper with us. It says Dangote refinery raises $2.5 billion dollars saying may go public August. There's a whole lot around this refinery quite some time.
Of course, he invested a lot, and this is a good dividends. But then, like, people have been clamoring, if we have refineries, it should also serve the people. In spite of the fact that we know we have other forces in the international market, but we should at least feel the benefit. And going public, we hope that will help Nigeria to become more self-subsistent in terms of our oil sector, basically.
Well, we'll look forward to seeing, because while I was coming to the office, I saw cars queuing, and I was like,
what's happening?
We hope we get past that stage someday in the course of all of this. Well, that brings us to wrap on this particular paper. Let's tell you what's happening with the Guardian weekend. The Guardian weekend has its own story. It comes up with the very front page cover here, where it says victory in forest, failure in system. And we have hard lessons from Orire rescue mission. All of this on page 4 and 5 of the Guardian newspaper. And of course, there's a picture story there showing where of government officials received this victims who were kidnapped but now rescued and back home with their friends. But like they said, hard lessons, of course, because if some people had to lose their lives just to get this mission accomplished.
So it's obviously there are lots of lessons to learn, because one thing is you don't repeat history, because especially unpleasant history, this is something that's now history. So the lessons will be for us to be able to be more careful as a country, so that incidents like this do not happen ever again.
And then we hope that going forward, the mindset of these children, while they are being rehabilitated into the society, will be able to forget the trauma that they had to go through with all of this. Well,
above the nameplate, there's a story by the left-hand corner. It says politics, page 11. Why Adeola is best positioned to succeed Abiodun as Ogun governor, and that is Akintunde speaking. And away from that story, it's inside stuff. It says between Bola Tinubu and Lionel Messi. What's the correlation? Very interesting. If you pick up that back page of this Guardian newspaper, you find details of that particular story.
And a bit of some story where we have one of our strong musician there. It says Burna Boy makes history as first Nigerian artist confirmed for the 2026 FIFA World Cup final half-time show. Of course, Burna Boy has been doing very well in the music industry.
He has been flying Nigeria's flag across the world, and he has taken our music to a different level. And this is another big achievement for him. and for Nigeria as a nation. And we hope this brings more success to us in other fields, obviously.
All right, so let's go below the picture story. There are some stories making the rounds, and we'll start by the left-hand corner there, where it says NBC reaffirms December 31st, 2028 deadline to complete digital switchover. That story is on page 3 of the Guardian newspaper.
And away from that story, by the right-hand corner, it says NDLEA declares alleged drug kingpin, 3 associates wanted. And details you find on page 3 of the Guardian weekend newspaper. And
of course, below that, we still have other stories. Just below the one that talked about the NBC, it says Orire adoption. FG charges 3 suspects to court in regards to the Orire. Don't forget that they had mentioned they had apprehended some of the terrorist people, and of course now we have the suspects will be charged to court. We have retired General Bax marking this call for international probe, and that story is on page 2. That's below that particular that story there.
On the story here in the middle, it says Shettima urges LG chairman to deepen fight against malnutrition with Nutrition 774 initiative. That's 774 meaning all of the local governments across Nigeria. Details you find on page 3 of the Guardian weekend newspaper.
And of course, just like we saw in the other paper of the Punch, we have where it says Supreme Court upholds final forfeiture of MFLS properties, $2.045 million assets to FG. And that story is as well on page 36 of the Guardian newspaper.
And the last story for review on the Guardian weekend says Mufwang pledges sustained security partnership as new GOC takes charge. That's talking about the Plateau State governor and partnership to secure the state. And details of this story you find on page 36 of the Guardian weekend newspaper.
And that's a whole lot of stories making the rounds, of course, on the front page cover of the Guardian. Let's quickly turn our focus and see other stories that are making the rounds on the Nation newspaper. The Nation newspaper still holds forth with the story on the Oyo adoption and what it's been like. We have on the Nation newspaper, the Nation, it says Oyo adoptions. We have 3 face 10 counts terror kidnapping charge. And then we also have under it says federal government plans arraignments for next week. That story is on page 4. And then beside that write-up, you see pictures of the
3
suspects who will be arraigned at the courts by next week. And that story, like I said, is on page 4 of the Nation newspaper.
And away from that story, above the nameplate by the left-hand corner, it says Mary Habila's father demands probe transfer, release of body. And the writer here says last night of late nurse. And details you find on page 11 of the Nation's newspaper.
And of course, there are other stories just beside that story there. It says Tinubu signs executive order on virtual assets. And of course, we have the writer just below that story. It says establishes a council to harmonize crypto regulation. All of that is contained on page 5 of the Nation newspaper.
And by the right-hand corner, it says no cause for alarm over US aid, says Jimoh Ibrahim. And it's got a rider that says UN Permanent Representative says new American initiative de-emphasizes aid. Details you find on page 5 of the Nation's newspaper.
And of course, a whole lot of story. And then there's a picture story there where the president is receiving the vice president's nomination.
Presenting to him
nomination from going for the vice president again as his running mates, making it very official for it to be in record ahead of the 2027 general elections. Well, that's quite the size of the Nation newspaper. Let's turn our focus and see what the Weekend Trust is saying to us this morning. The Weekend Trust has its own story, and I like this. That's one thing I like about the infographics around this. There's a whole lot you look out for when you see infographics or pictures. You're just trying to make sense of what it's trying to say.
There's a saying that pictures tell more than 1,000 words can. So
exactly.
Clearly, this is a depiction of that.
I'm sure our minds are really a lot, just like mine is trying to understand what this is saying. But there we have it. It says AKK 6 years, multiple deadlines, no gas. What's the cost of gas right now?
Very expensive. You guess it's as good as mine.
Okay, so that story is on page 5. You can pick up a copy and find out what the story is saying.
And above the big story by the left-hand corner, it says, Benue, how 59 persons were killed in 74 days. Sad one. And details you find on page 22 of the Weekend Trust newspaper.
Well, a whole lot of stories there. We have the story there that talks about let me read below that story there first before I go above. It says drug shortages, out of pocket payments, dog health scheme. A whole lot. We've seen there's a whole lot of
we've known how the health crisis in our health sector with the doctors and all of that, and then now there was a time I remember the government had an embargo on importation of some particular drugs, and obviously has made those drugs particularly short. And when I say short, I mean short in supply, and of course more expensive. And we hope that the government will swoop in as a matter of urgency to save this particular sector, because it's one that affects all of us, and people's lives are at stake in this particular sector. So we hope we see a change where every particular person, in spite of his social status, will be able to afford basic health care and basic medicine for whatever illness it is that might be bothering the person.
Okay, so we have other stories as well, just above this picture story that we have there. It says jostle for deputy governorship slot intensifies as INEC opens portal today. That story is on page 20. That's the middle of that story, is above the head.
And then by the right hand corner, you see a story that says Funtua Gidam Mutundaya Road, journeying through a death trap. And details you find on page 13. We all know the issue with the dilapidated state of some of our roads across the country, and they've served as death trap where people get to eventually go to their graves, and it's not a good one. We hope the government, even though we've seen many initiatives about roads being approved across the country, we hope maybe this particular road of concern is being looked into so that we could save the life of our motorists and commuters. And away from that particular story, just below the nameplate, you see a story that says 64 days after, where are the abducted Musa pupil? And that details on page 9. We talked about the Oyo rescue, and this story now is beaming the searchlight on a particular school in the north, like we saw last week, where the Arewa Consultative Forum said the president should also try to make sure the students in the northern part of the country that were abducted are freed. So this is the question that this particular paper is asking, and if you want to find details, pick up the Weekend Trust and turn to page 9. You find details of this particular story, and that's about the size of the stories from the Weekend Trust newspaper.
Amazing stories there that you need to find out what's happening, because of course gas is one thing you cannot do without, of course, because we all have to cook. It's the basic needs. So we need to look up for that and see where this multiple deadline is happening and how we can go past all of that. But let's go to the next paper story making the rounds on the Saturday Independent newspaper. Saturday Independent newspaper has a lot of stories, and then I'll pick up the one that stands with the lead there, boldly there written. It says the silent gold mine, why Nigeria's smartest youths are sweeping past FG's best kept secrets. Story on page 8. I think you need to understand which one is this. I'm
actually curious to know what the silent gold mine is.
For you to know what it is, please pick a copy of the paper and find out what the president, because of course it's a picture that is there, and he wants to make you understand what you're missing.
So you can maybe cash in on the gold mine. Young people like to cash in or cash out.
Of course.
So this is
and it's referring to the youth, of course, to get back
exactly.
to look at that. So pick up a copy of the Saturday Independent and find out what the story is saying.
Now let's go below that particular story. It says, showing car at 92, Onyeka Nwelu reveals philanthropic side of the literary giant. Of course, we know he celebrated his 92nd birthday this past week, and he has been receiving a lot of encomiums about his impact. 92 is a very remarkable age, and if you ask me.
Of course, it's not a joke at all to attain such age, and of course, height of what he has attained with his life, a whole lot.
It's not only about age; it's the impact.
That's what I'm saying. But what he has achieved in his life
exactly.
is not something you can play around with. Well, that's that story. Let's go below. We've seen this across other papers. Emefiele Gate. Okay, let me start. Emefiele Gate, and it says Supreme Court affirms final forfeiture of properties, $2 million share certificate to FG. Story on page 6 as well. And then below we have story as well, still going across all papers. Mary Habila Atiku asks Tinubu to suspend Umai immediately, and we have a rider under that story. And then it says, I spent 2.2 million naira on late Abila's sickness. Works Minister reveals. Story on page 3.
Quite interesting. This controversy is one that will linger for so long. But I look forward to see how it ends, actually. Away from that story, just the picture by the right-hand corner. It says, how Ibrahim Suleiman transformed from bored architect into Nollywood's refreshing polymath. Details you find on page 9. And below that particular story, no one here says, group kicks against proposed ban on gospel preaching, trading in public buses. Details you find on page 5 of the Saturday Independent newspaper.
And of course, a whole lot of stories there. And then we see stories also making the rounds. If you go above the nameplate, we've seen this also across other papers, or just like other papers have carried it there on the right-hand corner, talking about the Oriri adoption and then the arraignment of the 3 suspects of that. That story is on page 4. So let's go to this one beside it, where it talks about
Oshodi gang clash.
Oshodi rather, gang clash. Go ahead, Mutsari.
It says Oshodi gang clash. Caterer admits shooting at scene, says police were targeted by mistake. Details you find on page 30 of the Saturday Independent newspaper. And that's about the size of the stories we've taken from this particular paper. And it's time for us to go to the next paper for review, which happens to be
the last one.
The last one, and that is the Saturday Sun newspaper. And the Saturday Sun newspaper has got a leading story here. It says, our 56 days in hell. And it has a whole lot of riders. The first one says, rescued school children, teachers recount horror in Oyo Forest. Another one says, I never thought I would see my family again. And that's a 15-year-old Taiwo speaking. Another one here says, even if it's my husband's bones, please give us to bury. Widow of slain teacher begs. And the last one says, FG drags 3 suspects to court. And details you're going to find on pages 12, 13, and 25 of the Saturday Sun newspaper. And
of course, a whole lot of stories making around here. If you see just below that story there, you see some uniform men, and it talks about insecurity, and it says how communities move against bandits with local forces. And we have non-state actors, that's the rider under it, non-state actors squaring up against kidnappers or the criminals. I like the fact that it's becoming a community thing. Everyone is paying attention to what it should be and what shouldn't be, actually.
Of course.
Because, like I say, security is everyone's business, and everybody's actually putting hands on deck to solve this.
And that is why
issue.
People had been clamoring, and advocates for the state police have said, because of the fact that its policing is local, when you have people within that terrain that know the terrain, they can help you to have better outcomes. So we hope to see how that pans out. And by the right hand corner, there is a bit of entertainment. That it says BBL actresses taking over Nollywood. That is Mojishola Adebanjo speaking. Details you find on page 15 of the Saturday Sun newspaper. And above the nameplates, we have some stories also lined up there, of course. And this one, it says 2 communities on the left-hand side, on the right-hand side rather, 2 communities, 1 broken lifeline. And we have the rider that says, collapse pedestrian bridge brings anguish to Ibadan communities. We also have another one that says, we're working hard to fix broken bridge, council says. Story on page 4 and 5 of the Saturday Sun. And of course, by the left-hand corner, by the middle, It says, okay, we've taken this particular story, I think.
Across the papers.
It says, Oyo school abduction, Ishola Williams, Igbo youth leaders back Makinde's call for international probe. And the details are on page 27 and 28. And by the left-hand corner, it says, rainy season, experts offer tips against flooding, environmental degradation, and details you find on page 6. And the last story, Anita, by the left-hand corner.
A little story there will say how I spent 2.2 million naira on Abila's strange illness, says Umayi. We saw this earlier in other paper where he said that. And we have the Ohaneze urges scam, backs probe, opposes calls for ministers' resignation. That story is on page 24 of the Saturday Sun newspaper. A whole lot of stories, of course, from insecurity to concerns in the community, politics, of course, the issue, around the broken bridge, which is a major concern, and the call for an appeal for a better environment for communities to have to stay in and enjoy the reason for being in that safe space.
And of course, we saw the story about healthcare and the crisis with the expensive nature of medicine for people. So those are all stories that made the rounds on the various newspapers that we have reviewed for you today.
And of course, medication is important because, of course, with the rains, some people,
are vulnerable in this particular
point.
Yes.
So a lot of call needs to come in to see how that can play out easy for people to be able to access. Pocket-friendly kind of prices should come in for people to be able to access this medication.
That's the basic. Medication should be basic, and every serious government should be able to find how they can best subsidize for every citizen, because that's one of the reasons why government is created: welfare, security, and this is part of the security and welfare of every citizen. So I think it's something that the government should look into.
Very important and very timely at this point in time. Of course, we cannot take that away because government's for the people, by the people, and for the people. So when citizens make this appeal or make this call, it's high time attention is paid to this sides of the story, this concerns being raised. And of course, that brings us to the size of stories making the headways or headlines across the papers like we brought to you. And please pick up a copy of this paper so you stay informed and understand what the stories are really about. And of course, like we said, we have a lot lined up for you and we don't want to keep you waiting. Let's quickly serve you breakfast. That's Taste and Texture. Will come your way, and that will take us straight into our discussion segment where we'll bring you timely conversations around the economy and institutional reforms to see where this is taking us to. Please stay with us.
Everyone, and welcome to Taste and Texture. This is your super innovative chef, Saadatu Garba. Today, we're going to prepare an easy delicacy, and we will be breaking down the entire process. In this episode of the program, we'll be preparing pancakes with syrup. Pancake is always a delicious and simple breakfast option. This one is a recipe that is filling, delicious, and nutritious. Also, this breakfast pancake can be made in under 5 minutes by anyone. In addition to the speed and ease of making it, it is also fun to make. Ingredients: flour, sugar, egg, milk, salt, oil, and butter. Add a cup of flour into a bowl. Add 2 teaspoons of sugar and baking powder. Add a teaspoon of salt and mix all together. Add a cup of milk into the dry mixture. Crack 1 egg and whisk, then add into the batter. Add 2 tablespoons of oil and mix everything together, then set aside. Heat up a pan with little oil. Scoop your pancake batter and add into the heated pan. Allow to cook for a minute, then flip when the edges are brown. Repeat the process until you exhaust the batter. Serve with syrup and butter, and your fluffy pancakes are ready to enjoy. That's how we end today's episode of Taste and Texture. I hope you found our recipe insightful. Let's do this again next time, and be sure to join me for another taste-friendly delicacy. I am Saadatu Garba, your creative chef, saying thank you for watching.
In an age of breaking news, you need a trusted source that prioritizes accurate, factual, and unbiased reporting. This is AM News, and I am Ubong Usoro.
On global television, our news is rooted in verified and authoritative storytelling that keeps you educated, informed, and enlightened on all the issues that matter to you. I am Sadia Yakubu. This is Midday News.
You can trust our multi-platform news broadcast real-time and fast-check stories for all the big local and foreign headlines round the clock. I am Ramsey Enoch Agbo. This is News Express.
Our array of anchors delivers the news to our teeming viewers, breaking it down with context and perspective. This is News Cycle on global television. I am Anieti Patrick.
And the flagship news is your hub for the day's most engaging stories. This is News Prime, and I am Jumai Manson.
Did you miss any of our news rounds? No worries. Catch up at 10 p.m. and midnight, 7 days of the week. I am Mukhtar Kasim.
Global TV is on DSTV channel 365 and Star Times channel 276. We're active across all social media platforms at Global TV NG.
At Witchtech Cables, we don't just make cables, we deliver excellence. Our products are built with advanced technology, trusted for their unmatched quality and durability. With a wide range of cables, swift delivery, and continuous innovation, we stay ahead of the market demand. We are proudly Nigerian, fully indigenous, yet world-class. Backed by a professional team, strong technical support, and a deep commitment to customer satisfaction. Witchtech Cables is more than a brand, it's a promise. Witchtech Cables, quality cables better than the best.
At Aerogym Shoe Factory, excellence starts from the ground up. Located at number 1 Pound Road behind Nigeria Correctional Service, Aba, Abia State. We produce 1,500 high-quality shoes every single day. Paramilitary shoes, safety boots, desert boots, ankle shoes, back-to-school footwear. All crafted with state-of-the-art equipment and built for strength, comfort, and durability. For reliable footwear that stands the test of time, choose Aerogym Shoes for better product, strong steps, smart style. For inquiries, call 091-264-53399 or 070-3009-3944 or 080-6573-8374 or call 081-3167-3668. Email info@aerogym.com. Website www.aerogymdesign.com. Aerogym. Walk with confidence. Walk with pride.
In an age of breaking news, you need a trusted source that prioritizes accurate, factual, and unbiased reporting. This is AM News, and I am Ubong Usoro.
On global television, our news is rooted in verified and authoritative storytelling that keeps you educated, informed, and enlightened on all the issues that matter to you. I am Sadia Yakubu. This is Midday News.
You can trust a multi-platform news broadcast real-time and fast-check stories for all the big local and foreign headlines round the clock. I am Ramsey Enoch Agbo. This is News Express.
Our array of anchors delivers the news to our teeming viewers, breaking it down with context and perspective. This is News Cycle on Global Television. I am Anieti Patrick.
And the flagship news is your hub for the day's most engaging stories. This is News Prime, and I am Jumai Manson.
Did you miss any of our news rounds? No worries. Catch up at 10 p.m. and midnight, 7 days of the week. I am Mukhtar Kasim.
Global TV is on DSTV channel 365 and Star Times channel 276. We're active across all social media platforms at Global TV NG.
Well, we're back, of course, in Still Global Morning. It's high time we get into the conversation proper. And there's something very interesting that we tend to not pay attention to, and it's actually affecting the economy on every side. And it's high time we get into this conversation and make us see reasons why we can't have our mindsets always looking at a very, I don't know how we commonize it. I think that's the simplest way to put it out right. But welcome to the discussion segment of Global Morning. Well, let's give you this guide to read. Well, across Nigeria, thousands of entrepreneurs provide products and services to government institutions, private organizations, and corporate bodies. But while many fulfill their contractual obligations, getting paid on time remains a major challenge. And that's becoming a problem for us as a nation.
Of course, delayed payment has become one of the biggest problems facing our economy, especially with small businesses today. And they have a lot of challenges that you see. You make payments for months. Sometimes they struggle with paying salaries of their staff because why the payments are delayed. You see loans and all of those things. Those challenges, all of those things, all because of delayed payment. So it's something that I think everyone can relate. It's a very relatable conversation because all of us, even if we are not business people, we've experienced that in our daily lives and we know the inconvenience that has caused for us.
But when it comes to business, it's even more
it's more critical,
very concerning that we need to pay attention. Well, many vendors struggle to pay staff, just like Mutera said, service bank loans because they cannot even just do so. Sometimes they need a little help here and there, to purchase the raw materials
they
use.
To the market and then
you can't tell them to give you something
later
for free.
Exactly.
They have to pay for all of those raw materials or even remain in business is becoming a problem because, of course, you have invoices coming in and all of this is remain unpaid for months and sometimes it runs into years. There was even recently we saw a trending story on the socials where someone had to drag somebody over payments, and it's not something we want to put out. Well, we have this raises a critical question about accountability, contract ethics, and the sustainability of Nigeria's business ecosystem.
Honestly, it's worrisome because the ecosystem is one that's built on trust, built on accountability, and if you have delayed payment, these are hindrances that will that would hinder our businesses. We've been clamoring for, especially our MSMEs, to grow. But with these challenges, if they're not tackled, we'll have a long way to go. So it's something that's very critical that we have this conversation today and find a way to honestly find solutions to these problems.
Okay, Mukhtar. Well, today we want to ask a lot of questions to how this can get out. Why are vendors not being paid on time? I often ask that question, why are we not paying them on time? What's the challenge? And then also, who bears the biggest burden from all of this? Of course, we know it's the business owner. Because if he supplies, he takes out his own money to say, I want to run this, and then he ends up not getting paid. And then he's owing people are dragging him.
Social media.
and now we have social media, which is a major cause of concern. But how does this affect Nigeria's economy is the question we also want to ask.
Very important.
And then look at all those things and what practical solutions can restore businesses
and confidence in
confidence on a lot of business, and also with good partnership, all of that's coming to stay out for the business owners. And what a way to go about this conversation. We have someone who understands this from different points of views. We want to guide you to know who this person is, looking at the mindsets and all the experience he has in this network or with his work with people, where he's experienced, where he's seen what it is like talking about all of this and how it plays out well. Joining us is a very important person. But let me give you his breakdown of who he is so you understand why we had to hail him this much. He's a lead consultant, a communication strategist, also a media trainer, and he's a highly accomplished communication strategist, a media trainer, and also an entrepreneur with over 30 years of experience in journalism, strategic communication, and media development. He began his career at DAC Communications, where he rose from radio journalist to television presenter, reporter, producer, and senior editorial leader. He later served as head of the entertainment and style desk at AIT News, led the business and economy desk, and also became a member of the AIT editorial board before concluding his tenure in 2018. Well, Mr. Emmanuel is the founder and lead consultant of Cinema Productions Limited, a media and communications company established in 2011. Through cinema, he has led high-impact communication campaigns, produced compelling multimedia content, and delivered training programs that strengthen journalism, storytelling, and strategic messaging across Nigeria. A respected media trainer, Emmanuel has facilitated capacity building programs for organizations, including Search for Common Ground. One of the reasons why we need to bring him to speak on this issue, the Center for Domestic Peace Building and Conflict Resolution, House on the Rock, and Star Cross TV. His expertise spans conflict-sensitive journalism, broadcast presentation, curriculum development, and media advocacy. As a communication strategist, he has worked with prominent national and international organizations, including the National Council on Nutrition Delivery Unit, International Human Rights Commission, that's UNIDO, DFID programs, budgets, and also the World Bank Group, EU, ECOWAS program in Nigeria. Emmanuel holds a degree in theater arts and from the University of Benin, and an MBA from Nasarawa State University, Kefi. He's a member of the African Business School, Abuja, an ambassador for the Project Management Consultants of Nigeria, and the initiator of the Pay Vendors Fast campaign, which advocates timely payments for vendors and service providers. With his blend of editorial leadership, strategic insights, and also commitment to professional development, Emmanuel continues to shape impactful narratives and build communication capacity across sectors. We have all of that written about him. Very impressive, and one of the reasons why we had to bring on set with us this amazing expert in person of Mr. Emmanuel Ohomakai. It's good to have you join us on the program. Thank you so much for finding out time from your busy schedule to be here. It's good to have you join us.
Thank you very much, Aniche. Thank you. It's good to be here.
Well, I'm glad you were able to make it, because I was gambling between why you're going to be here in person or you're going to be from join us virtually or all of that. But it's good that we have you to speak on this issue, because of course when you started this conversation, I saw your video making the public appeal and saying vendors are suffering and it's a problem to small businesses, which is a major guide to the economy in terms of business structure. So let's talk about let's understand the narrative or the problem with delayed payments for vendors.
Okay, so you actually started the narrative.
Okay.
You started it where you talked about the fact that when client or organization, maybe also be government. When I mean government, I'm talking of MDAs, ministries, departments, and agencies may say, okay, we want to do this, we want to purchase or procure equipment, we want to procure something, we need contractors. You know, those days we used to call them general contractors.
Exactly.
So you have, or you want to do some service. Like for me, I'm a service provider.
Sure.
So you want to do this, so let's do it. Okay, so this is what you are supposed to do, or you're supposed to procure, or what you're supposed to do as a service provider. And they now ask you, okay, what's the terms of payment? Usually there is a contract or an agreement, and there's a terms of payment there. Maybe they may tell you, we can't pay you anything up front.
Sure.
We'll pay you something, we'll pay you everything at the end of supplies when we have confirmed that that is okay.
It's done.
Or they may say, we'll pay you a certain percentage before the thing is provided, or the service is provided, or the goods are supplied. And you supply, you deliver, it is confirmed. Now they say, okay, we will pay you maybe 15 days or at most 30 days after you supply, either your balance or all your monies, depending on the initial arrangement. And then you wait 15 days. If the thing was 15 days, nothing happens. You wait 30 days, nothing happens. So now this spans sometimes to 6 months, 1 year.
And it's a problem.
It's a major issue because that is the life wire of every business.
True.
I'm a service provider. I mean, if I do business with 1, 2, 3, 4 organizations, a lot of them are saying, we'll pay you 1 year, we'll pay you in 30 days, or we'll pay you in 15 days, and you're waiting 60 days, you're waiting 90 days, and you're waiting 6 months, and you're waiting 1 year, and you mentioned it. You have salaries to pay. You have other sub-vendors that you have worked with, and yet there's nothing. So it's a major problem. There's cash flow issue. There's cash flow issue. And sometimes, just like you mentioned, you go and borrow money to be able to achieve this. And you borrow them either from banks or from what I term Shylocks. Like those so-called Shylocks are the people who will give you loan at short notice.
I'm telling you.
Because for instance, they tell you, supply this, we need you to be able to supply it in 30 days. And you know in 30 days, or probably in 1 week, let's actually be more realistic. Want you to supply this in 1 week, or want you to be able to deliver this in 2 weeks. And you know that if you go to the bank and begin to apply for loan, before you ask for collateral, before you ask for this, but there are some people, and the banks, yes, the banks will give you that, and maybe give you the loans at, especially a small business, because I'm concentrating on small businesses, and they'll give you the loans probably at 7 to 10%, depending on your bank. But when you go to these Shylocks, they will give you from 10 to 15%, because the risk is higher.
Sure.
So they allow you to take the monies, and so you get the money faster. But then when it is time to pay, and guess what? The banks are giving you maybe at 7 or 10%. Even if they give you 10%, they are giving you at 10% for probably 1 year annually. But these Shylocks give you at 10% monthly. So instead of paying a 10% that is annually, you are paying 10% monthly. And these issues keep on going. I mean, you have the timing is going, your interest rates are rising, and then you come to a deadlock. By the time they finally pay you the monies, it is so unfortunate that at that time, your interest sometimes is more than the money you borrowed.
Very true.
You pay the principal and you now start paying the interest. And so you have nothing to gain. That is even for people who borrow money. Then you have staff who you need to pay salaries. So why Do you have to pay delay payments? Because I know I have to also, I have obligations too. But a lot of these come in not because you ask yourself, why is it that, especially for, let's say, private organizations, before you go for a procurement or you go for want something to do some services, I'm sure you have set the money aside. Why do you have to delay? My investigations have found out that not that they don't even have the money to pay, but there are some people who sit upon this thing, or some people who don't feel it is important to treat these issues. Is it not the vendor? He should wait. We will pay him. And probably all they need is just a signature or approved. And they allow this, they linger on, and people suffer. The chain effect is just devastating. And so if you must give businesses to vendors, make sure you are ready to pay them fast. That is my call, and that's why I started this campaign. And when I started it, a lot of people thought, I mean, somebody asked me, are you ready for this war you have to take? And I asked, what war? And you know why it is a war? Because people feel that, clients, organizations who give vendors, small businesses, jobs, they feel when you complain, you are not patient enough. And so they also intimidate you. They ask you, if you're going to continue disturbing us for your money like this, when next we have business, we won't give you money. And so they just relax. The vendors just relax and say, okay, no problem. Whenever you are ready to pay, you pay, because I need more business. Your own small business is dying.
Okay, so that's a mindset that is a problem, Mukhtar, and we need to look at this squarely, Mr. Emmanuel. Let's talk about how this is affecting in terms of challenges. Just like you've mentioned, you've been in a lot of instances, and I think it's becoming a mindset, and that's why I have a problem, because payments is very important. You've listed a whole lot of things that needs to come to play with the vendor himself, and this is becoming a serious challenge for them. So how widespread is this challenge in Nigeria? Because we're using Nigeria as a case study with the government and the private sector, because it's affecting the small, medium businesses, enterprises who have small money to start up. Because we always encourage people to start up businesses, but because you want to keep getting contracts, you keep killing your business, which is a challenge. So to walk us through that.
I'd like to chip in something again, Mr. Emmanuel, because the government, most times, they think it's just the small businesses that are affected. But if you look at it, it affects our overall economy. So I'd like for you to speak to how it affects the overall economy of Nigeria and how we're doing ourselves a disservice by delaying these payments.
Thank you very much, my brother. Because I'm going to start from that. Do you know that informal business occupies 60% of the Nigerian GDP? 60% or more. Now, these informal businesses are the ones going through these pains. Everybody is going through this pain. All these small businesses. You ask how widespread it is. It has become this delayed payment culture. It is becoming a culture. And it's a culture we must stop in Nigeria. It's very widespread because it started with government. You've seen contractors go to complain or protest in Federal Ministry of Finance. You think they just want to protest? Their families are dying. Their people's incomes are affected. I told you before about the chain effect. I told you before about how it affects workers. There's some vendors. Those some vendors have families. I have a family if I am the major vendor. So, the funny thing is, it is becoming a terrible culture which we want to adopt in this country, and we must stop it. It's not a good culture because government is doing it, private institutions are doing it, non-governmental organizations are doing it, and now guess what? International institutions who come to deal with local vendors in Nigeria, they see the way others are treating the vendors. So you ask yourself, If they can treat themselves like that, who are we? Let's follow the culture. So international organizations follow the culture. And we see that growing trend, but we must nip it on the bud.
Okay.
If we must have good corporate governance, because this belongs to, and I call on the International Institute of Directors, the Institute of Directors rather, the Nigerian Institute of Directors, the IOD, they must take this as a campaign to pay vendors fast. Do not delay payments. Don't be that person who will sit down on a payment just because
you are the boss.
You are the boss. I have an instance of somebody who, a job that I did, and all I needed to do, I was waiting for this payments. They gave me a 10 working days. After I submit my invoice, they had cleared said okay, everything is okay with my job. 10 working days after, I should get my payment. That 10 working days turned to 3 months. It's when it became 3 months, I now did a mail, and somebody advised me that I should copy their international partners. And when I copied the international partners, I did a mail on a Sunday. They were owing me 2 tranches.
Wow.
I did a mail on a Sunday. On Monday, I got my payment.
Interesting.
On Friday, I got the last payment. So, why do we have to go through all that? Why do people have to be threatened? Why do some people write and say, oh, my lawyer, when they now talk about legal consequences, that's when people now rush to pay. So what was stopping you? Why do we have to allow things to go this bad before we make these payments? Those are the issues.
Mr. Manuel, I like the fact that we've pushed this to the economy side, Mukhtar, and we feel how, for someone like you who understands, that's why you're able to take the steps, and you understand how to deal with this situation. We'll see how delayed payment has affected business cash flow, because of course you mentioned it's the cash flow needs to be there because you have basic things to meet up with this money, and of course there's a transaction, so it should go in that same way. So one thing that comes into play is what happens when these vendors cannot meet their financial obligations, because like you said, you were owed 2 tranches, you had to do a mail, sometimes just come in 10 days became longer than the time promised. And I'm always worried in most cases, why do finance departments delay this? Because part of the call you made.
Very important. And one thing I like Mr. Emmanuel to address is what you just said, because they will tell you it is due process. So I'd like for him to speak to that particular point where they say we have to do our due diligence, back-end findings before we release that payment. Is that just rhetorics, or are they facts to that particular assertion that those people make before they make those payments?
They are facts and they are rhetorics.
Okay.
And I'll tell you what I mean.
All right.
They are facts because, of course, there has to be due diligence.
Okay.
That's why they give that 15 days or 30 days. It's for the due diligence. So they are facts. They have to do the due diligence. But it becomes rhetorics when that due diligence is probably done in 2 days, or even ignored until they feel it is time. You have not many gods in some of these places, especially these finance departments, when these payments need to be made. Not many gods there now. It's not yet time, we'll treat that file later. They do things. So I am not saying that payments are the only jobs that they do.
Of course.
So, of course, you have to put into consideration all the other jobs they do. But payments are part of your core. Why is it that organizations don't put into their when you appraise a staff, say what is left from your payments in a month? You appraise your staff and say how much have you been able to pay from our vendors? What is left? What is keeping it? We should be able to put it as part of our appraisals and be able to ask those staff why they are delaying in paying those monies. Because it's not that we do not have the monies to pay. We have the monies to pay. So it affects, it's something that, and somebody has advised that because I'm going towards solutions now. Somebody has advised that because I also noticed that most of our small businesses don't look at the fine prints of contracts or agreements.
Okay.
So when you don't look at those fine prints, it brings problems. If you get a contract, I know we are so eager to sign those contracts or those agreements. When you see the money, you want to sign. But is it possible to have a lawyer friend, especially if you're a small business? If you can't afford the services of a lawyer, have a lawyer friend check it out for you and say, okay, see the implication of you signing this.
Very important.
So when you sign and the other people are not keeping to their end of the bargain, you have a right
So go for it.
to write. And try as much as possible in these organizations, try to know their legal department. Don't only know their procurement department or your contact person. Try to know their legal department so that you can write at the end. Because when you write to the legal department, because the people at the procurement or the finances, they may not understand the import of their actions. But those in the legal department will probably understand and make them understand.
Okay.
That's one of the solutions that I bring to the table this day, at least to those our vendors.
So you talked about the legal point of view, which is very important. I'd like for us to look at the regulators, the CBN and all of these financial regulators we have in Nigeria. What roles have they done in helping the situations become better, or have they not played their roles? That's why these people get away, because what you've talked about, we've seen a lot of impunity. People don't get punished. So why have these regulators not swooped in to do their due diligence as per how the law has given them the power?
The CBN is not really the regulator here. The regulator is not really a regulator, but someone who can cry out to is the FCCPC, because the vendor becomes a consumer at this point. The vendors' rights, many vendors don't know their rights. And the FCCPC can help to follow up on this campaign. FCCPC and the NOA, the National Orientation Agency. Because they need to reorient Nigerians, Nigerian organizations, the government themselves on some of these issues and the implications of delayed payment culture. They need to reorient them. The FCCPC should be able to come in with a stand to say Nigerian vendors deserve to be paid as and at when due.
Okay.
Because when you don't do this, there are implications, there are consequences, and most of the time, just like you said, the consequences are borne by the vendors themselves.
Okay, so I'm concerned about how this affects the vendors, just like you've mentioned a lot of scenarios. And let's look at the large economy, how these delay payments contribute to unemployment. Because like you said, if people don't understand the rhetorics of this, understand their legal point of view, the FCCPC coming to guide them, walk them through this, it becomes a problem. Because first thing first, you had small money, you started a business, and then you employed a few hands of the human capital to also support that business, and then you get a contract. And of course, the first contract, just like your scenario, if you didn't have the backing to walk through that business, you probably would have been stopped, and then unemployment starts ruling for your staff. So now unemployment is a problem which Nigerians or the young minds in Nigeria are looking for a balance through businesses. So how much does this payment delay affect the Nigeria's economic productivity, which is a major concern, and then also the ripple effects consumers eventually experience in the long run with all of this? For those who are now, because of course this is your call, #pay vendors now, it's actually a call to help them understand their rights and how to go about getting payments so it doesn't kill the business.
You see, when you were asking this question, I sighed, because the truth is, just like you say, I told you about delayed salaries. I told you about the fact that the issues affect not only the businesses,
Yes.
but it affects the workers.
True.
Definitely, if I cannot continue paying or I cannot afford to pay my workers, I will let them go. Let me tell you, you know that Nigeria is full of malls. In each mall, there are at least 100 business owners in each of those malls. Each of those malls employ maybe at least five members of staff. Now, imagine each mall having 5 members of staff, and they do businesses with organizations, the big organizations, and then the payments are delayed. It means that in each mall, 100 businesses, 500 people work. Of course, if vendors are paid fast, if vendors are paid as and at when due, if businesses continue to flow, the economy will continue to grow, people will begin, I will employ more. If I have 5 staff and my business, I begin to scale. Once I scale, I will employ 10.
Of course.
As I scale, I will get to 1,000. And before you know, I grow from small to medium.
True.
So no matter what, it cascades. This is why we must be fair to each other. We are all in business. The big organization is in business. The small organization is in business.
True.
So be fair to each other. Government is in the business of governance, but for you to be in the business of governance, you need those small businesses to be able to do your biddings. In other words, if you give them contracts to be able to do, if you don't pay them, they will not grow. And if you don't pay them, they will not be able to do. You will not be able to see businesses or small vendors to actualize your dreams as government. And then on the other side, you will kill small businesses, and then you will have no economy to run. So some people ask me, why are you so passionate about this? I'm passionate about it because it's also about Nigeria.
Of course.
It's not just about me. It's about Nigeria. It's about growing small businesses. It's about making small businesses scale. You want small businesses to scale, and yet you do not give them the lifeline that they need. They will begin to die. Someone should do a study. What is the death rate of businesses? I remember somebody said, if your business can survive 2 years once you start, then you can be able to survive. But we've seen businesses closing shop after 10 years in Nigeria. The 2 years is because of consistency, commitment, and your ability to be able to go through the sacrifices of that teaching stage. It's supposed to be a two-year teaching stage.
Sure.
But in 10 years, you are still in teaching stage.
That's a problem.
Because of things like this. Because it's first hard to get the business. It's hard to get even a contract. Then you get a contract and you actually celebrate it. Then the next thing, you are going through challenges, major challenges, that turns your business fortunes around. Not for the good,
At all.
but for the worse.
Now, so I'd like for us to look at dispute resolution, how these vendors can better find this a middle ground. Is because I've seen a lot of protests, rightly so, and some of them are in court, but the process is quite expensive. So, in your own opinion,
Expensive and long.
Very long, very tedious. So, in your opinion, how can this dispute be resolved over time so that it doesn't go worse?
Government has a lot to do with this. I want to call on government, please. Is there a way we can come up with a policy? I don't know who is going to do it, whether it's the FCCPC or the Nigerian government or the president will sign an executive order on how. I know there's to an extent to which the government can interfere in private businesses, but at least if we make it a law that if you are doing, is it in business, if you're doing business, you should have it shouldn't be more than a 30-day period, because we need policies, strong implementable policies to be able to achieve this. Government has to take the driver's seat in this. And then the IOD, Institute of Directors, I want to call on them to also follow suit. And when IOD follows, Because IOG is always talking about corporate governance. They're always talking about good corporate governance. And when you talk about good corporate governance, you are also talking about, this is part of it. This is part of good corporate governance. Paying vendors as and at when due, not owing vendors, not allowing small businesses to die. When a professional organization like the IOD follows suit, then we will have other professional bodies following suit. Businesses should be able to keep to their word. If you run an organization, if you are a finance director, look at your conscience and see how your actions help small businesses. Look at how your actions help small businesses to grow. Is your action killing them or your action making them grow? That is what you should think about. And we should less think, because I know there's a lot of corruption in this whole setup. There's a lot of corruption. Because some people will say, keep their file, they never settle. I mean, I don't want to call it a Nigerian thing, because I don't feel comfortable calling things Nigerian things again. Because corruption is not a Nigerian thing. Corruption is alien to us. And we must make it alien. As soon as we begin to see corruption as alien, because corruption continues to thrive in this country because we do not see it as alien. But when we begin to see corruption as alien, then we will know that, I mean, people will begin to see that it's not the way they do it. Because they say it's the system. This is the way they do it. So we have to do it this way. No, it is very alien. We don't even know it. Do you know corruption? No. So this pay vendors fast has different legs. And one of it is to also curb corruption in finance departments of organizations, so that they look at their conscience. That's why the National Orientation Agency has to come in.
Okay, so I like the fact that you talked about the finance departments and the instead of directors to pay attention to this, because they talk about corporate governance and how this is playing out well. Yes, we've called on government to look out for stricter laws and all that. Apart from the government, you also talked about private institutions, and one of those institutions I want to talk about is the financial institutions. What role they can also play to ensure that these finance departments in the different sectors or MDAs can do to fast track payments. And also one other thing I'm also want to ask you right now is, how can digital invoicing improve accountability? You know, just like you said, part of what you did was to send out mails to follow up on yours, and then yours had to come in very fast. How can we use digital advocacy to ensure that invoicing can come out
very important
as well, and then the responsibility that the clients actually have towards the vendors? Because like you said about when you see contract, don't get too excited. Have legal advice on that. If you understand those legal terms and conditions, you will know the responsibilities of the client towards you as a vendor, and you'll be able to call in legal bodies. But I want to speak to the issue around other financial institutions that can also come to look at these roles that they can do for finance departments to play their role really fast and stop killing businesses that could improve the economy of the nation.
Well, the finance departments, I mean, financial institutions only come in when there are troubles with banking, or where because the major thing is like, Aniti, I do business for you. Let's say you wanted chickens, and you say, Emmanuel, I hear you supply chickens. I say, okay. He say, yes, okay, give me 100 chickens, and I give you the 100 chickens. Now, if I give you the 100 chickens and you don't pay me on time, does your bank have anything to do with it? Really, your bank doesn't have anything to do with it. The only time your bank will have something to do with it is you pay me, you use one bank. I use bank A, I use bank B. So now you send me the money through bank A to bank B, and bank A is not ready to remit, or is not having network issues, having challenges, so you cannot remit. You told me that you will pay me before in 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, you make the payment. Bank A you made the payment through your Bank A, but Bank A cannot remit to Bank B because of network challenges and their issues, their personal, they have this the clearing issues, clearing banks and all that. Of course, you have the settlement bank, the national settlement system. So that is where financial institutions really come in to this. Another way financial institutions, can come in, and I'll bring the government again, or financial institutions, maybe. Well, financial institutions, how can you help? You can help by partnering with government.
Okay.
Government, because I know sometimes, especially for government contracts, is because there is shortage of funds. But let us partner with government. If you partner with government and they create a special fund for vendors, where vendors can go and take funds at very little rate, barely, in fact, from 1-2% rate per annum, 1-2% rate per annum, and then when these vendors are able to access this and do their businesses, if it is with government, they do their businesses with government. If government fails to pay at the right time, they too will fail to pay at the right time. It is government that is also suffering. It's not only, so they're sharing the burdens. Another thing that can be done, which which is also, I hear they do it in Canada. We could do this if an organization or client is owing a vendor beyond the stipulated time. Interest should begin to accrue.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Interest should begin to accrue on that payment. So by the time, if you were to pay me in 15 days and you pay me finally in 45 days, you pay the rest 30 days interest. So we share the burden. Let's say you are supposed to pay me in 30 days, you pay me in 60 days, you share the burden. So the burden is less, because at this point the vendor takes 100% of the burden. Then you talked of digital invoicing. Digital invoicing is, in fact, that is a major issue that we have to bring into government, because digital invoicing is well established in the private sector. But in government, everybody wants to see hard copy. But digital invoicing helps for accountability. When you have a digital, because we are at this age and time, e-governance. Digital invoicing is part of e-governance. If you have a bank where invoicing is done on your system, you should be able to see. It will ease payments even. Because through digital invoicing, you'll be able to see on your system, oh, these have been paid, this is not yet paid, this is where this is due. So you can see the importance of bringing in digital invoicing, not only to private institutions, but also to government.
Well, amazing discussion so far, but let's wrap this up with speaking to you on this final note. What's one advice you'd want to give to a small business owner at this point in time? Because with this campaign and this drive, I trust you as a passionate person who understands business dealings. What's one advice you would give to a small business owner so he doesn't kill his business, which is also a contributing business to the growth of the nation's economy, and that's the GDP of the economy, before we let it go?
I have talked about the advice of looking at the fine prints of contracts. You must look at the fine prints of contracts. That's very, very important. Secondly, businesses, small businesses, don't take more than what you can chew. Don't take more than what you can chew. We know that we all want to grow. We know that we all want to scale up. The Nigerian economy is not smiling on anybody right now. We know with the high cost of transportation, high cost of energy. I mean, we used to complain 5-10 years ago that it was high, but today we know the true meaning of high, and we really pray it doesn't get higher than this. So the Nigerian economy is not smiling on any of us. I'm a small business owner too. So let us do well to not take more than we can chew, and let us also be very straightforward in our dealings, business dealings with big organizations. Do what you must do, but try as much as possible to be straightforward so that you too can fight for your rights.
I like that.
Very important, fighting for your rights and being straightforward.
When you understand your rights, understand how this plays out, you know that it's not just you alone, it's you saving the future generation. Because if you start a business, you're starting it because you want to leave it on to the next generation, giving them a mindset that they can build capacity and not be drowned in poverty. Because you first got the idea to that business because you wanted to grow, you want to make income, you want to be stable as a person. So I want to say thank you so much for your time with us. It's been fantastic, quite in-depth here, and this is really a call for accountability. This is really a call for not to kill businesses, because small businesses, just like we have smallholder farmers, we're calling for them to survive and thrive, because the GDP of the nation needs to stand tall. We need to see where the government can say, okay, there are funds coming in here and there, and the nation can do better instead of always going to borrow.
Like you said, small businesses, they constitute the majority. So if you kill them, you are invariably killing your economy. So
of
it's
course,
something
and it's not the best way to go at all.
Not
Well, let's tell you that Nigeria's economy depends not only on major corporations, rather, but also on the millions of entrepreneurs who provide essential goods and services every day. Ensuring that vendors receive timely payments is more than a contractual obligation. It is an investment in economic growth, job creation, and business sustainability. And of course, our appreciation goes to our guest, Mr. Emmanuel Ohomokai, who has been perfect with us so far, a communication expert, like we mentioned, and he's the founder and CEO of Cinema Productions there, where he's done fantastic. He's also a media entrepreneur. Please understand his background. And then, of course, he's the leader and the voice to the Pay Vendor Now, or today, whatever we want to, but ensure that vendors get their money on time, because the small businesses need to try. Thank you so much, Mr. Emmanuel, for coming to the program Global Morning. What a way to start the weekend. Of course, for those who are vendors going for venues of events today, ensure that you go your events right, so that you don't get stranded and kill your business, of course, with time.
Of course, very important. And this, for me, is a wake-up call to government, to business owners, because, like he said, very straightforward for the business owners, and then for the government, please do the needful. It's very important. Don't kill our economy. Let the economy breathe.
I like the advice. Let the economy breathe. Thank you so much, our guest. It's been fantastic with you on the program. We hope to get you back when results start rolling in, and we see small business owners saying, we've gotten our results, of course, because we had someone who had to stand up to speak on this issue. Well, it's still Global Morning, and we have a whole lot lined up for us today. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
In an age of breaking news, you need a trusted source that prioritizes accurate, factual, and unbiased reporting. This is AM News, and I am Ubong Usoro.
On global television, our news is rooted in verified and authoritative storytelling that keeps you educated, informed, and enlightened on all the issues that matter to you. I am Sadia Yakubu. This is Midday News.
You can trust a multi-platform news broadcast real-time and fast-check stories for all the big local and foreign headlines round the clock. I am Ramsey Enoch Agbo. This is News Express.
Our array of anchors delivers the news to our teeming viewers, breaking it down with context and perspective. This is News Cycle on Global Television. I am Anieti Patrick.
And the flagship news is your hub for the day's most engaging stories. This is News Prime, and I am Jumai Manson.
Did you miss any of our news rounds? No worries. Catch up at 10 p.m. and midnight, 7 days of the week. I am Mukhtar Kasim.
Global TV is on DSTV channel 365 and Star Times channel 276. We're active across all social media platforms at Global TV NG. At Erojim Shoe Factory, excellence starts from the ground up. Located at number 1 Pound Road behind Nigeria Correctional Service, Aba, Abia State. We produce 1,500 high-quality shoes every single day. Paramilitary shoes, safety boots, desert boots, ankle shoes, back-to-school footwear. All crafted with state-of-the-art equipment and built for strength, comfort, and durability. For reliable footwear that stands the test of time, choose Erojim Shoes for better product, strong steps, smart style. For inquiries, call 091-264-53399 or 070-3009-3944 or 080-6573-8374 or call 081-3167-3668. Email info@erojim.com. Website www.erojimdesign.com. Erojim. Walk with confidence. Walk with pride.
In an age of breaking news, you need a trusted source that prioritizes accurate, factual, and unbiased reporting. This is AM News, and I am Ubom Usoro.
On Global Television, our news is rooted in verified and authoritative storytelling that keeps you educated, informed, and enlightened on all the issues that matter to you. I am Sadia Yakubu. This is Midday News.
You can trust a multi-platform news broadcast real-time and fast-check stories for all the big local and foreign headlines round the clock. I am Ramsey Enoch Agbo. This is News Express.
Our array of anchors delivers the news to our teeming viewers, breaking it down with context and perspective. This is News Cycle on Global Television. I am Anieti Patrick.
And the flagship news is your hub for the day's most engaging stories. This is News Prime, and I am Jumai Manson.
Did you miss any of our news rounds? No worries. Catch up at 10 p.m. and midnight, 7 days of the week. I am Mukhtar Kasim.
Global TV is on DSTV channel 365 and Star Times channel 276. We're active across all social media platforms at Global TV NG. At Erojim Shoe Factory, excellence starts from the ground up. Located at number 1 Pound Road behind Nigeria Correctional Service, Aba, Abia State. We produce 1,000...
Okay, we're back. It's still Global Morning, and of course we have a lot lined up, and it's a timely conversation we cannot do without. That's why we had to bring it here for you. It's a second time to get into the conversation. Of course, we want to look at sustainable development issues, accountability, governance, institutions, reforms, to see how this blend can give us a more sound, safe space for governance. All of that is what we've put in place for you today. And of course, we have an amazing guest to join us on this conversation and bring us proper in-depth analysis to all of this issue. Well, let's tell you that across the country, Nigerians continue to debate many of the issues shaping our national life, from security and elections to public accountability and also economic reforms and service delivery. While this may appear to be separate issues, many experts argue they all point to one fundamental question, which is how strong are institutions? That's our institutions as a nation, and strong institutions are often described as the backbone of stable democracies because they help ensure accountability, protect citizens' rights, and also keep government's focus on delivering results. And of course, Mukhtar.
Of course, we know in recent week we've seen conversations about sparked by the abduction of the student in Oyo State, and we've seen renewed debates over the state police.
Sure.
Of course, electoral reforms ahead of 2027. We've seen concerns about accurate population with the population the week that passed, and we've seen questions surrounding public accountability in government. And all of these developments remind us that our nation's progress is not driven by individuals alone, but by institutions that functions effectively and transparently and also consistently. So to help us pack these issues, we are joined by Mr. Olushola Babalola. He's the Executive Director of the Center for Environmental Sustainability and Development Awareness. Mr. Baba, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me on your program, and good morning, Nigerians.
Amazing. Good to have you join us on the program, because this is something that is quite timely. We're getting into the elections proper, and of course, we've seen issue around insecurity, where we need to hold government accountable and look at what institutions reform can do to better governance for the nation. But let's get to the bottom, like I say, institutions. Why do we talk about institutions? How does this really matter to our governance or the governance of a nation such as Nigeria?
Okay, thank you very much. So when we are talking about institution, what we are talking about is the engine room of any government, because without institutions, government cannot function effectually and effectively. And so that is the reason why each and every time we talk about good governance, we need to have a very effective and very strong institution in place. So, and the reason why we need to have this is that if we accept that governance or government is a continuum,
yes,
then definitely we need continuity in our institutions. Yes, we can have somebody who is very strong. We have, gotten quite a lot of fantastic leaders in the past in Nigeria who have done so many things. I've heard about Muritala Muhammad in those days, came up with kind of reforms that actually changed, the fortunes of Nigeria at that particular point in time. You remember they talk about Indoji policies, they talk about so many things, they talk about promptness and what have you. Yes. So, and you cannot do it alone. So because you look at it, government is about security, government is about management, it's about economy, it's about food security, it's about education, it's about health. And these are, the subsector of government that actually form the institution that we are talking about. So for example, yes, we have the president as commander-in-chief of armed forces, but the president cannot, be on the front line during the war, with the military personnel. Definitely is going to choose somebody that's going to represent him, possibly the chief of defense staff, the chief of army staff, or all the forces staff and what have you. So, but if we put a very good institution in place, we don't really need we don't really need somebody that is strong to come and man that institution to make them effectively, because by putting the institution in place, what it means is that we have the right policy in place, to back that institution up, to make them effectively, to make them work the way they're supposed to work, in Nigeria. So institutions are very, very important, and we should make them as strong as possible, because if we are pushing for reforms, if we are pushing for continuity in government, then if we want everybody, citizen inclusive, to fall in line, in tandem with the constitution of the law, the supreme law of the nation, definitely we have to have a very effective and effectual institution in place.
Thank you very much. We talked about how it is very important to have stronger institutions than strong men, which is an age-long debate in politics. Yeah. I'd like for us to also look at the trust in public institutions. When we see that people have the trust that they put in institutions have been eroded, and they no longer see those institutions as being effective for citizenry and deliverance of the dividends of democracy. I would like for you to talk about the impact, the negative impact in the long term for a country like Nigeria.
Yeah, the negative impacts are much, because if, for example, the institutions are not effective, are not strong, what will happen is part of what we are seeing in Nigeria today. There's going to be a total breakdown of law in Nigeria. So people want to do what they want to do in their own way. And human by their nature, if there's nothing to regulate them, they want to go extra mile, to express themselves, to announce themselves, to say that they want to do things in their own way. So one of the reasons why we don't really people don't really regard institutions is simply because over the years we don't really have the political will to make those institutions work. And I will give you an example, why those institutions are not working. For example, we have seen people doing one thing contrary to the Constitution. But at the end of the day, because of the kind of system that we have, that is not, functional. For example, when you look at our justice system, you understand? You see some people, they will steal maybe bread, for example, and they are sentenced
to a very
lengthy term. But you see the bigger thieves, people that are entrusted with the funds of Nigeria, and at the end of the day, there's going to be a long trial, some 2 years, 3 years, and at the end of the day, they end up by saying, go and take plea bargain and pay just a very minute, part of that money that is being embezzled.
True.
So this, for example, is a put off for the citizen. So, and people will begin to say, at the end of the day, even when we pay obedience to the government,
yes,
or to to our country, what is going to happen at the end of the day? Nothing is going to happen. So you can see the way and manner, the trust they have in the institution begin to degenerate. So that is one of the reasons why we are having this kind of problem that we find ourselves today in Nigeria.
Well, this is one call for concern, just like you mentioned around the issue of trusting the institutions and all that. Leadership is one thing that we've always talked about Nigeria or Africa in general,
Yeah.
leadership? Because in your own view, would you say Nigerian institutions have made noticeable progress in recent times owing to issues of trust, just like you mentioned the scenario of court cases? Where is the biggest gap, or where do we have this gap in terms of trust to institutions, to hold people who are of the high and mighty, so that those who are also on the level, on that ground level, because they stay, just like you give the scenario, you see a very minute case, but someone stays years, you know,
awaiting
and
trial,
and his life is wasted.
Exactly.
Because like I said, the court is the last hope of the common man. I'm giving that as a scenario. So where have we missed it? Where are the gaps in these institutions?
Okay, two things I will emphasize here. Number one is the fact that for a very long time, citizens have been alienated.
Okay.
And they are very far from the government. They don't even know what is going on in the government. So they can't even speak for the government. They can't speak for their representative. There is no feedback loop, you know, where citizens can quickly access information. So for that reason, they want to, as much as possible, you know, what is it called? Run away from government, you know, as much as possible. Then another one is what you mentioned at your introduction. You talk about the leadership. What is the leadership process? You understand? The recruitment process of leaders, you know, look like. Yes, in the early days of Nigeria, we have the Abat Makaulis, we have Nnamdi Azikiwe, we have Awolowo, you know, we have so many of them. And they are driven by ideology. You understand? They are living for something. They are not just living for the sake of living. They are living for something. Some of them, they say they are liberalist. Some of them are progressive. You understand? Some of them believe in the unity of Africa. You understand? And that is the reason why Zik has the accolade like Zik of Africa. And some of them believe in the strong regionalism. You know, they feel that we should make our region as strong as possible, as effective, as economic as possible. You understand? Before we begin to talk about Africa, you know, so all these things, you know, these are the what is it called, the driving force behind all those things that is really, you know, driving, you know, what is it called, the seal behind, you know, what we have now. But you know, and you see in those days there are so many youth, you know, organization, Nigeria Youth Movement. We have Nigeria Association of Nigerian Students. We have other youth and cultural groups that we have that are seeing those leaders as their mentor. You understand? They want to quickly come into the same, you know, podium with them to begin to behave the way they are behaving. But nowadays in Nigeria, they are not there. For example, when you look at political parties in Nigeria, we're supposed to be part of the institution that's supposed to drive the leadership process in Nigeria. They are not doing their work.
Very true.
They have reduced campaign to sloganism in Nigeria today. All you are hearing is KLM. You understand? Mentioning, you know, the acronyms of their political parties, shouting, praise singing, and this is not leadership. You know, leadership is about, you know, leadership is about internalizing what is going to move, you know, the country, you know, forward. I remember in my days in the university, we have so many, you know, organizations like Campaign for Democracy, like CDHR, led by late Gani Fawehinmi, the one led by, what is it called, Belkor and Somkuti. We have Olisa Agbakoba, the CLO. You know, they are all UAD, they are all there. And in a way, we pitch our tent with some of this ideology. And at the end of the day, a nation that is not driven by ideology is not going to succeed. At the end of the day, because what are they living for? That is the question we need to ask ourselves. And until they begin to attract, you know, until they begin to make, you know, government attractable, you know, to citizens, until the citizens begin to have urge to know what is actually going on, you know, in governance or in government, you know, system, there is little or nothing we can do.
Yeah, he talks about something very pertinent, which is the citizens and the trust and accountability. I'm coming towards looking at why citizens have lost that trust, and one of the reasons they say is accountability. And one thing that comes to mind is the debate about the controversy about the one that has been going on about FPIC, exactly. This has raised questions about transparency, government oversight, and accountability of the public administration of government. So without dwelling on personalities, what do you think are lessons that we can derive from that particular controversy and how it emerged in the public?
So, first, let me say that what happened with the agency is not just a scandal. It's a test stress.
Okay.
So, and this is the more reason why we need to go back to some of the policies that we have and see how we can rejig them. Yes, Nigeria have policies, and I can say it categorically that we have best of the policy, one of the best of the policies in the world. But the problem is implementation. The problem is implementation. As worse as some people made us to believe Nigerian constitution is not as worse as they made us to believe. The constitutions are there, the provisions are there, but we have the political will to effectively implement those policies and laws. Are we performing our oversight functions? We have so many institutions. We are talking about institutions here now. What is driving the institutions? So these are the kind of things that we need to ask ourselves. Yeah. Sometimes ago we have people, or maybe I should say, so far so good, since the days of Obasanjo, when you look at the people that are manning the EFCC, ICPC, these are strong people. You understand? At the end of it, and they have made a considerable progress in terms of fighting financial crimes. At the end of the day. But again, we should always put it at the back of our mind that crimes will fight back, corruption will fight back. And until we have a very good institution in place, just of recent, a president of a particular commission, that has to do, with public trust, has been sentenced. You understand? They are in court. It's nothing to write home about. When you are talking about what is it called? Is it CCB or what is it called? Code of Conduct Bureau. And that is what we are saying. Yes. And this is supposed to be, somebody that's supposed to, a model for everybody. That's supposed to, but it's not there. So those are part of the things that, bring about the gap. That if everybody is working, according to the dictates of his office, you understand, we won't have problem. Yeah, so we won't have problem. We have separation of power. The executive are doing their job. The judiciary are doing their job effectively, and the legislatures are doing their job effectively. And where they need to compare notes, they need to do that, because we find it very difficult to believe that somebody, an illegal DG, open an office in federal secretariat, for example. Even for the legal agencies, they are still finding it very difficult to get a space there. So definitely there is a breakdown of communication. There is a breakdown in roles and responsibility. It means somebody is not doing his oversight function very well.
Well, that brings to a lot of questions to be asked. True. Because like you said, where there is need to compare notes, where there is need to check and balance, there's high time institutions pay attention to those things, because this is really a scandal like we've seen the last few weeks that has come to play. Yes. But one thing we need to see, many Nigerians often ask whether our oversight institutions are proactive enough in terms of, just like how you said, understanding their role, or whether they are only reacting when they see public outrage to how can this come to be when there are questions thrown at them. They become more proactive and, they're supposed to be proactive than reactive. You don't wait for things to happen before you start looking for amendments or ways to make it
damage control.
Or damage, that's not the way to go about things, especially when you are in governance or you're held accountable to responsibilities being given to you or trust being put under you. So how important is independent oversight in strengthening governance? Because this is one way we might see as the way out. Since we are seeing a more reactive thing than a proactive. Because
people, with this controversy, people said the people, ICPC should probe them, but that's also government. So what's the neutrality of that commission?
The independent oversight is very, very important, even right from the whistleblower.
Yes.
You understand? And I want to believe that one of the reasons why we don't have much of the whistleblowing, report, in Nigeria, simply because whistleblowers are not effectively protected.
Okay.
People have this fear that, what if I'm go and raise an alarm, and at the end of the day it becomes a problem for me?
True.
Because you have to guarantee, the protection of those people that are ready to blow the whistle. At the end of the day, because they wouldn't want to blow whistle, and at the end of the day they jeopardize their life or that of their family or that of their property. So that is still lacking. Yes, we have a policy about whistleblowing. Can we begin to look at the policy and make it effectively, so that at the end of the day, people will be willingly come out or come forward to say, yes, I see something and I need to say
just
something.
Like we have the witness protection across the
Yes. Then another one is that we have FOI. You understand? FOI Act,
Freedom of
Information Act. So how best are we using those, instruments? Those are powerful instruments that we can use, to access information from government. You understand? The Constitution, give us that leverage, that liberty to say, okay, if I'm not clear about certain things, I can write government institution to say what is going on here. For example, even our budget. You understand? So these are kind of things that we can actually activate, and it's going to work for us. I'm coming back to the issue of independent, So then again, what can we do? How effective are civil society organizations? A situation whereby the civil space is being stifled, or the civil society actors are stifled, from doing their job. They can't do it effectively, and we should give it to civil society organizations in Nigeria, all the NGOs, all the faith-based organizations, all the community-based organizations. When they see something, they say something. And when we are talking about transparency and accountability, if anything happens in the government domain, what we can do is to bring about an independent inquiry.
Okay.
Because this is the only reason why, when people can believe what comes out of such committee. Because, for example, the ICPC, the EFCC you are talking about, supposed to have, possibly vet even the so-called the space, the personality that are involved, that are behind, this fake agency. You understand? But what are we talking about? It means they have not effectively done their work. The DSS is supposed to, for example, clarify, what is it called? The character of the personality of Mr. Adeyemi before he will even go to, what is it called, to the National Assembly. But we didn't see this happen. So it means some people are not alive, to their responsibility. And so that is the reason why we need that independent commission of inquiry. A lot of people have talked about it. Femi Falana, for example, said, okay, if you want people to take you serious with regards to this case, this is what is going to happen. And we have another one that just happened. At the use of the fake agency, they are talking about an humongous amount of money that was budgeted for World Cup that Nigeria did not even qualify for. For example, how do they get the budget code? These are the kind of questions that we need to ask ourselves. Then even when you get the budget code, how do you vet those codes? True. You understand? So, and all the insertions they are doing, is it part of our system? You understand? All this late insertion. If insertion is going to happen in the budget, there is a frame. There is a time limit with which you can do that. Yes. Unless there is a presidential veto that say, okay, and they have to quickly go back to the National Assembly to say, we want to buffer our budget by certain percent, and for so reason. It doesn't just happen. So these are part of things that we really need to look at.
Now, going forward. The trust has been eroded. We know that over time. And it's going to take a long time to build. But I'd like for you to speak about how the government institutions can regain the trust of the people, even though it's at the lowest level. How can they get that trust back? Okay, so for example, I'm a chair of a committee in OGP. OGP is Open Government what is it called? Process. Okay. So I share a technical working committee. So, and for a very long time, firstly, let's appreciate that Nigeria is signatory to OGP. Okay. OGP is fully in Nigeria, since the days of Muhammadu Buhari. Yeah, okay. And a nation that embraces OGP, open governance, has a lot, to benefit. We don't have anything to hide, as a government. So as much as we have made, the budgetary process open, the more people will have access to information. It's not just about figure. Yes, it is good to put the figure there, but again, it is good to get riders to those, figure we are talking about. Maybe when we roll out your information in terms of data, in terms of information that you are putting there, all those numbers, then you need to, maybe in 2 paragraphs or in 2 pages, explain what those numbers or what are the secret behind those numbers. So, and until you begin to do that, if the information is not in the public domain, for example, how many agencies have submitted, their audit report, even the monthly one, the quarterly one, to Federal Ministry of, Federal Ministry of Finance, for scrutiny. For example, even look at the state government, look at the local government. Local government has autonomy now. Then you need to ask Fiscal Responsibility Commission, how many of them used to submit their monthly report before they access another one. All these things are in our constitution.
There's a provision for that. We have Fiscal Responsibility Act that dictates all these things. That say if you want to embark on any project activity, you have to involve the citizen, in the budgetary process. And not just budgetary process, you need to get feedback from them. By virtue of my practice, we've seen a situation whereby you go to communities and you said you want to sink borehole for them. And at the end of the day, you sunk your borehole and you go back in 3 months or 6 months later and they are not using the borehole.
Why?
Because their priority is not borehole. So that's why they need to carry along the community. You understand? They need to know what their priority. Some of them, their priority is road. Some of them, their priority is health delivery or medical delivery, so to say. Some is education. And until we begin to do that, there's supposed to be a town hall meeting where people will come around and say, okay, this is what is happening. Okay. We hardly use scorecard again in Nigeria. You understand? So scorecard is just for accountability, is for transparency, and for feedback.
Yes.
For example, like, and this is the only way we can, these are mechanisms that can, feedback into what the government is doing. To say, okay, these are the priorities of people. You have promised this and you have not done it. 1 year down the lane. So it serves as a reminder as well to government. Sometimes ago in my campaign, or sometimes ago in my budget delivery to the House or to the National Assembly, these are the things that I promised. So if anything should happen to those articles, to those items in your budget, you should be able to come back to tell them that, okay, the reason why we have not been able to meet this is because of X, Y, Z. So information is very, very important. Then the communication channel is very, very important too. How do we ensure that our information gets to the grassroots? It's very, very important. And now, in those days, I remember growing up, if there is going to be power outage, you see in the national television, there was no private media station in those days. But you see they will announce there's going to be a problem. If there's going to be shortage of water supply, they will come out. And these are channels that are still very much important. What is national orientation doing? To ensure that they break down the information into a language that everybody in Nigeria can understand and as simple as possible, without any ambiguity. So these are part of the things that we need to do. Then the oversight is very, very important too. There are so many ways we can do our oversight functions. And we need to embrace technology. It's very important. You can't be everywhere at every time. We can't be everywhere per time. And that is the reason why we need to leverage technology. That is the reason why we need to go digital, in our governance process in Nigeria. So because this is going to give us a lot of mileage, this is going to help us, to publicize information. This is going to make the government closer to the people.
Yes.
Because, for example, if I need any information about any information in the budget, I can quickly go to a portal, a central portal, and access that information.
True.
You understand? Even it is very important for the public servant. For example, if there is a platform like that, maybe the head of service of the federation will have known that this, the fake DG, is just embarking on an alleged, let's say an alleged DG, is embarking on something else differently.
True.
You understand? So these are part of things that we really need to look at.
There's a whole lot to look at if you want to single them out in terms of different sectors and all the concerns raised, just like you've tabled out. There's a place where those that handle the information, just like you mentioned, NOA, need to understand their role. I want to take you back to what you earlier said, where they need to compare notes and look at where the lapses are, and then fill up those gaps and make sure that people, because I'm going to take you back to the National Assembly. Just like you said, oversight functions and also constitutional projects, knowing the people's needs. Some people go out to campaigns and then they make a lot of promises. And then when you get into the job, of course, you get swamped at some point because it becomes overwhelming. You're representing quite a number of people, though in different constitutional or federal constituencies and all that, or senatorial districts like that. So you need to also find a way of probably itemizing so that you know what you've met with and what you've not met with. And then budget is very important as well, because we know what it is when it comes to budget process. When they come to defend their budgets, where questions are being asked and all that. Sometimes that is where we miss those things, and then there's need to start looking at fixing it and correcting it, because of course if the National Assembly has also come to talk about the issue of the fake agency as well, talking about how their integrity is also at stake, where they need to look at all those lapses, how they even got into the budget, because proper. I remember the deputy speaker spoke about that. The minute they said they were going to pay me a courtesy call, he told his people, go and check these people out, because when he said Federal Secretariat Office, and from what he said on the floor of the House, he said they were more concerned about taking pictures than the actual thing they came to speak to him about. So he did his own parts, but more agents, more institutions need to start paying attention to details and not get carried away by work. I just wanted to put out that out there.
That's very important.
So let's talk about the security concerns in the nation, where yes, our security is doing a fantastic job. Starting off with the fact that they allow a repeated case of the Chibok girls come out to play a game with the Oyo kidnap, although they are still pushing for more rescue missions to come to place. But security institutions and public safety is a very serious concern. And another major story, like I said, is a rescue mission. And a lot of Nigerians want to ask, while many Nigerians welcome the outcome of this rescue mission, people lost their life. And the families are also hurting at this, while some are celebrating. The incident also raised broader questions about security from institutional perspective that you are speaking about. What lessons should we take from this whole operation that was in terms of institutional reforms, how we can get it better? Because I remember the Chibok case, I was always on the streets covering the call and clamor for the girls. And then when this came out, Nigerians were really out, very proactive about it, because they knew the pain of families in the Chibok girl case.
Anyway, let's thank our military for the fantastic job, the security generally, for the fantastic job they did. And we know they have been doing quite a lot of fantastic job here and there, because if not for that reason, Nigeria would have been worse off than what we have now. But we are still better than some countries that we know in Africa, so we need to give it to them. But again, it is most important that we rejig the architectural framework of Nigeria. For example, Mr. President mooted the idea of state police. This is very, very important. But again, we don't just leave it at the level of state police. We don't just put lip service to creating state police. We need, to look at it in the context of Nigeria. State policing is everywhere, all over the world. Even whether formal or informal, we are doing it in Nigeria too. But what we just want to do is to put a face of law into, or legality into what we are doing. This is very, very commendable for Mr. President, and I hope he's going to have the political will to be able to do that. That is very, very important. But again, we need to look at our defense budget. For example, let's pitch it side by side with other budgetary allocations, because when we are talking about the military or the security not being effective, there are so many things we need to consider in terms of resources. We need to look at personnel. Do they have the required number of personnel? For example, in Nigeria today, how many soldiers or police is manning 1% citizens in Nigeria? So when we have a soldier or we have a police manning, several hundred thousands of people in Nigeria, there's going to be a problem. Yes, we know we can't have a police to a citizen, but again, if we need to recruit more personnel, we need to do that. Then again, we need to retrain. We can't use the idea of 80s, 90s, even 2000, you understand, to police or to man Nigerian day, country. It is not going to work. Things are getting dynamic day in, day out. Before we get ourselves into where we are today, you can close your eyes and move from the north, from the extreme north, far north, to the far south, without anything happening, to you. But now we are in a different regime entirely in terms of security. So these are things that we really need to factor into what we are doing, because if we need to increase budgetary allocation, I know people have been saying they have injected a humongous amount of resources in terms of financial allocation.
It has the largest allocation.
The largest allocation. But again, we need to really scrutinize that. Where are the allocations going to?
Okay.
So it's very, very important. How judicious are they using the allocation? And that is the reason why the oversight that you can see that oversight has become a recurring decimal in all what we are saying. Because one thing is to provide provision, another thing is to make sure that we use what we provided for what we said we want to use it for. So it's very, very important. Then, above all, technology is very, very important. Synergy is very, very important. Synergy within sister organization, synergy with citizens, synergy with regional bodies, synergy with neighbors. You understand? It's very, very, because when you look at the war that is going on, it's not like a conventional war, especially what we are seeing in the north, in the far north, for example. Then we need to leverage on the collaboration with our neighbors. Republic of Niger, Mali, and what have you, to see how we can jointly curb, this problem, because we need to understand our terrain. For example, there should be some level of liberty, at which, if you, for example, arrest some people at the borders of Nigeria and Mali, how do we ensure that the needful is done at the end of the day, so that it doesn't become another scandal? At the end of the day. So, and those are the kind of things that we need to consider. Technology is very, very important. Training is very, very important. Retraining. Then the resources is very, very important. Then the recruitment is very, very important, because we need to audit. Soldiers are dying every day. Police are dying every day. You understand? And we don't hear recruitment happening every day. Yes, some of them, because of sensitive nature of it, they might not announce it. But what we are saying in essence is that, for example, in Canada, as you are coming to Canada, when you are in their airport, they will be telling you, you can see the figure that today the population of Canada is, so and so. And they will be telling you, there in the airport, you will see the number of people that are moving out. You will see the number of people that are moving in. You understand? This is information. I don't even need government to do that, because I know once I get to the airport, I can quickly see that, and I'm sure they have portal that they can access, such information. So that is very, very important as well. Then they need to bring government closer to people. When we say bringing government closer to people, we are not even talking about representative now. We are talking about the necessary institutions. For example, how many police stations do we have in terms of the constituency that we are talking about in Nigeria? How many constituencies do we have? We have 774 local government. How many police stations? I'm not talking about police posts now. You understand? A functional and effective police station. How many do we have? Then, what is the MOU of those police stations looks like? In case there is a distress, in case there is any emergency, can they ward off all those aggressions? So those are the kind of things that we really need.
That's a very strong point to look at, because like we said, it's actually a way of creating these institutions to be stronger and provide, because of course we've seen insecurity is a major concern, not just in Nigeria, it's not particular to Nigeria alone, it's across the world. And we're seeing, and it's good that we also have local vigilantes, just like it doesn't the legal or a law framework backing what we're doing, which is actually
I know you talked about state police, but I'd like for us to be more elaborate about it. Creating of the state police, we've heard that the government has said it's going to be the game changer, and policing is local. People, they need people that know the terrain, people that are closer to the people, like you said, bringing policing closer to the people. So in your opinion, is this something that can actually be a game changer in our policing and its fight against insecurity, basically?
Yeah, it can be a game changer if we have the political will to do that. It's going to be a game changer if we really have the political will to do that, if we follow the framework that we establish state police to the letters. You understand? Because a situation whereby we begin to distort along the way, there's going to be a problem.
Where interest comes to play over.
Yes, where interest comes to play over merit, for example. So it becomes a problem. Just like the other day, I was talking, that is within ourselves. We are trying to analyze some institutions in Nigeria. We are looking at our policy. For example, character commission is supposed to be a blessing to Nigeria. But now we have politicized it. You understand? Because one of the things that we are talking about is that, okay, we want to give Nigeria the sense of belonging. The 36 states of the Federation plus FCT must have representatives across the offices of government.
Yes.
But are we still following meritocracy in what we are doing? It's not just it is the chance of Ogun State or Lagos State, you understand, or Borno State or Adamawa State, for example. It's about, okay, the people that Ogun State are pushing forward, are they qualified? It's not just about this is our position, this is our slot, we must take it. Are they qualified to do the work? So those are the kind of things that we really need to consider going forward if we want state policing to be very effective. Yes, the personnel will come from within the community, they know the terrain, and it's very, very important that even a criminal, when a criminal knows that somebody is looking at you, somebody that knows you very well, you know, that alone will deter such a person from, you know, doing that kind of a thing. And it will help in intelligence gathering.
Yes.
Because the police is now more closer to the people. You understand? What is it called? People can give them information. You know, and there are so many tools they can use. For example, the early warning system. So whereby they gather information and they process those information, and at the end of the day, they can forecast, they can tell what is going to happen. And you see the fantastic job they did in Oyo. You understand? It took them some time, but at the end of the day, it paid off.
Get results.
You know, they went out there, do interview people, you know, covertly, and at the end of the day, they begin to process. For example, look at that woman. I said in a day she made about 5,000, but all of a sudden there is a surge in her profit. So she was making like 100,000, 120,000, 150,000 in a day. You understand? And definitely something is happening. Definitely we have alien in our community. Who are these people? Who are the simple question they need to ask is that, okay, fine, you said you made a lot. Who are the faces that you are seeing newly coming to you understand? So, and even if they don't want to ask him, they can as well designate a personnel, a plainclothes personnel very close to that place, and begin to watch the movement of those people. So those are the beauty of community policing, and if we can follow it to the letter, like I said, it's going to be a game changer at the end of the day.
But the critics are saying that it can be a tool in the hands of nefarious politicians abusing it for their own political gain. How can we curb that excess?
Yes, we have seen that playing out. We can't rule out that. In every process, you have the benefits and you have the demerits too. But what is important is that the benefit outweigh you know, some of the disadvantage that we have there, and that is the reason why we have analyzed what we analyze here now. So there is a mechanism, you know, that actually establish it. But what we need to emphasize is independency. The independence of, you know, that institution is very, very important. We need to create a mechanism in such a way that we are not going to leave it in the hands, you know, of the political office holders or politicians to use, you know, against or to suppress the opposition, you know, at the end of the day. So, and once we have done that, you know, definitely we are going to achieve the aims and objective or the mandate to which the state police, you know, was created for.
Okay, so I like the fact that you said that while you were talking, something kept playing in my head, the issue around the eyewitnesses who tell the story. Because we need to look at safety mechanisms, protection of these people. If we have the state police brought to people, the trust system as well, where people need to trust the institution, the police, to be able to tell, yes, police has always come out the word, police is a friend, you know, tell the police little information, because it takes two to tango, it takes information sharing for us to do that. Would people be able to trust this system? Just like we've said, political influence come into play. So concerns for protection of the citizens or the witnesses who tell the story is where I'm worried about. And also that trust is where I'm worried about. Do you see this not being a deterrent to this progress we're trying to make with state police being in place?
Yeah, let me say this. We need to place a caveat here. There is no perfect system all over the world. Out of every 12, there is always a Judas.
Yeah.
So definitely we see renegades that want to go in a way of criminality, even among the security personnel. But what has our past experience taught us? Even when we are operating a national police, a federal police, so to say, Of course, some of these personnel must have in the past. How did they treat them?
Okay.
So in the orderly room trial, is it just you committed a crime and at the end of the day they beat your wrist and they said you can go? Then maybe after a year or 6 months they reabsorb you back into the system. So these are the kind of things that. But again, the reward system in Nigeria is poor. We need to say this. We need to say this because if you know you're going to have a reward for what you are doing, you are going to do it passionately. True. You are going to commit all to it. So let's begin to look at our reward system as well in terms of remuneration, even in terms of the whistleblower. You understand what I'm trying to say? You know, we are just, every now and then we kept reading disturbing news. You know, a woman was allegedly what is it called? Forfeited some properties to government. And if in this kind of economy and somebody has a jewelry that worth over 4 billion naira, 2.4 or 4.2 billion naira, what are we talking about? So these are kind of things that people are living in affluence when some people are living in opulence. You understand? When they are suffering. So these are kind of things that we really need to do. So, but if you want people to work, you know, assiduously to achieve the aims and objectives of every institution, we need to look at our reward system. What is the take home for Nigerians, for average Nigerians today?
Who try to contribute?
So are they getting a living wage? Can their living wage, can their wage take them, you know, what is it called, out of the woods? You understand? So these are the kind of, you go to Federal Secretariat, you see some people, they will come on a Sunday or Monday and they go back on a Friday again. Why? Because they cannot afford their transport on daily basis. They are sleeping in the office.
That's really
so these are kind of things that we really need to. These are things that is happening. We don't even need to feign it. It is happening, and that is the reason why these information are very important for national planning, for development planning. Until we begin to aggregate this information, we begin to process them, and we begin to proffer solution to some of these gaps, to some of these issues. There is little or nothing we can do. Yes, everybody is talking about state policing now, but how effectively can state police become if it is established at the end of the day? There are so many fears, there are so many concerns, but we know the needful.
Okay.
If we are ready to do the needful, it's going to be a game changer. Yeah, so EFCC, you know, hit the ground working. Some people, when Obasanjo established EFCC, they said it's using it to witch hunt the opposition. But I remember Baba used to, I read some of his interview, and I listened to some of them, and he took it back to them to say, okay, you said I'm using it for opposition. Did you steal or not? So if you can tick that box to say yes, you stole, then what are we talking about? Whether it is opposition, and even in the days of Obasanjo, we saw Obasanjo or Jonathan trying a member of their board of trustee of their political party. You understand? Whether it is for opposition or not, let's start it. You understand?
Let's have that trust system,
accountability and transparency. You understand? So it's not a situation whereby we recruit 100,000 personnel, and in our what is it called, in framework we are saying we recruited 200. And some people are collecting that money, you know, from behind.
So these are the little drops that actually makes up the ocean, and then becomes a problem.
So that's where, and if there is no transparency, there is no accountability.
Okay.
You know, the transparency, accountability, trust, they are in the same group. You understand? If one fails, you understand? If, for example, if there is no transparency, there is no accountability.
Okay.
If there is no accountability, there is no transparency, and of course, trust is nowhere to be found.
Now let's talk about elections, because I know you're one who's also a stakeholder. I can call you that. You've participated in over 50 elections. So, looking at Nigeria's electoral system and the evolution over time, how would you describe our process? What are the gains and the ups and downs, and how we can?
Okay, fine, fantastic. So, what I will say is that we are not where we were.
Of course.
And if you look at our election, don't let us go far. Let's start from 1999. You know, we have had election that they call sham election in Nigeria.
Yes.
We have had election that they said is an election program to fail. You understand? we have had an election that they call a glimmer of hope.
Sure.
You understand? So we're coming from a sham election to an election program to fail, and to an election with a glimmer of hope.
Which was great progress.
You understand? Which is a progress.
Yeah.
You understand? In 1999, our election is derided of technology. We didn't use technology at that particular point in time.
Very true.
In 2003, we began the reform process. Prior to 2003, we began the reform process. The federal government constitutes committee
Yes.
on electoral reform
Yes.
and constitutional reform. And people came out with quite a lot of recommendation that we felt can better our electoral process at that particular point in time. Some of them they accommodated, some of them they threw away. Sure. But again, we did not relent on our hours. As the election is progressing, or our democracy is progressing, we are bringing a new set of reform into our election process. And from where we are today, I can say that when you look at our electoral process, then we can beat our back and say we have something to fall back on in terms of delivery. You understand? Because when you look at the past election, there are so many controversies that through those elections. There are perennial issues that are still very much here in Nigeria, and one of the things that actually came to election again, which has become a menace in Nigeria today, is transactional. What is it called? Democracy. So whereby our election is involve a lot of money. You understand? Before now, we don't have EFCC in our polling unit. We don't have NDLEA in our polling unit.
Now we have.
You understand? But now we have.
Vote buying.
Yeah, because of vote buying. Exactly. That's I hate using that word, vote buying or vote selling, because it's two-way. So if there's no buyer, there's no seller.
Yes.
You understand? So it's transactional. So that's exactly what we are talking about. As we are trying to resolve some problem, new ones are springing up. So how do we ensure that we solve some of this problem? Technology has come to stay as far as election is concerned. Before now, if you want to register, it might take you years. And I mean it when I say years. Starting from dislocation of your polling units. In paper, they said there is a polling unit or registration center in, what is it called? In, let's take for example, in Sheraton. But you get to Sheraton and you can't find anything, you can't find anybody there, and they ask you to go to somewhere else. So the polling units are dislocated, the registration areas are dislocated. But now with technology, we are improving on that, and there is synergy among what is it called, different governmental agencies. For example, INEC is working with NIMSI now. Yes. INEC is working with National Bureau of Statistics. INEC is working with delineation, what do they call, Border and whatever Delineation Commission. Yes. So to know if there is need for us to create new, what is it called, polling units at the end of, because we can't continue to use the same, polling units that we are using in 1999, to conduct the same election that we are doing. We are not there yet, but there is progress. As far as our electoral process is concerned, there is progress. We are not there. We have not gotten a perfect election. There are so many things, that are wrong with our elections, but we are working towards that, so that at the end of the day, we can have a very good election and representative in Nigeria.
I like the fact that you said we're making a good progress, because all we want to say is progress and stability come to play in our institutions across the different sectors.
Like you said, there's no perfect institution anywhere in the world.
We can't have a perfect one. That means when something is perfect, that means you're God yourself. But we must have all those things.
But this takes us back to the issue of strong institution and strong persons.
Yes.
As far as our election is concerned, I remember Jega came and he brought a lot of reforms.
Yes.
And these are reforms that have outlived Jega now.
True.
When you look at, started from card reader, the smart card reader, to what we call Beavers today. You understand? We are improving on it. Before now, you remember we have to do a long queue. They have to do accreditation before you vote. But now we are doing, it's seamless. So accreditation and voting
at the same time.
So and they can vet you either through your biometrics. You understand? Either your face, by your fingerprint, by your name. You understand? So unlike a situation whereby pictures are displayed and they have nothing to identify you at the end of it. So they said, okay, fine. Technology can fail. There can be human error. Maybe your picture is omitted, but in our, what is it called? Database. We can see your picture, even if it's not in the paper. Then can you put your finger to confirm whether it's the same person or not? So this has accelerated, the election process, and it has brought about a lot of progress.
And then we were hoping that with this progress that has been made so far, we know that hopefully we get 2027 in the right direction, because there are a lot of partnerships, like you say, collaborations, and electoral process, not just INEC alone, is a multi-stakeholder, and we see that everybody is actually coming forward. The only concern I might have is let's try and have a bit of trust in the system.
It's very, very important.
It's very important.
The trust is very, very
important. Very important.
And again, like I used to say, and that's not our conversation here anyway, but because I know we're enlightened, oftentimes people are quick to blame INEC. But you have just said it here now. There is a multidisciplinary, what is it called? Process. You understand? The security has a role to play. INEC itself has a role to play. The citizen has a role to play. The political parties. To me, the political parties are not living up to their billings. We need to call them out. They are not living up to their billings. You understand? They are not living up. They always hide under the INEC of a thing. Go to INEC. Go to INEC. Even the court has a role to play. You remember there was a time in Nigeria, votes are won, elections are won in the court.
True.
Okay.
Based on technicalities in the court. So these are still issues that we really need to look at, factor into our reforms and see how we can correct all those things.
If we keep talking, we might not leave this conversation, because it's really wholesome, because we have the different sectors to look at, and different institutions to hold, government agencies to look at, and talk to them on these issues, and until they understand the way to go, until we start comparing notes. I like the fact that word you use.
Comparing notes.
It will give us the best answer we're looking for. What a way to wrap up this conversation. Thank you so much for your time with us. It's been fantastic. We'll look out for getting you back.
No problem. Thank
so we can have part two to this conversation. Mr. Lushola Babalola, Executive Director of the Center for Environmental Sustainability and Development Awareness, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us on building a sustainable or accountable institution of Nigeria. And we look forward to seeing that. Thank you so much for your time with us.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure.
Amazing. Well, we've seen so far that strong nations are built on institutions that are transparent, accountable, and trusted by the people. While reforms may take time, strengthening those institutions remains essential to achieving sustainable development and deepening our democracy, of course.
Thank you very much. And it's been a befitting end to an amazing conversation.
Yes. And
I hope the stakeholders who have watched will take the suggestions and make them part of reality for Nigeria's democracy to thrive.
Of course, just like Mutara said, and this brings us to the end of the Global Morning program. It's been fantastic having you sit with us and enjoy this conversation. We look forward to having you join us in the rest of our programming for the day. I am Aniti Patrick.
And I am Mukhtar Kasim.
Thank you for watching. Bye.